Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am Amber from Amber's Books and More, and today I have a book recommendations video for you. So I decided to do a book recommendations video based on the genre of magical realism. This is a genre that I have recently, within the last year, really gotten into, and I found some really good ones that I want to tell you about. So I have 10 books to tell you about today. Let's just jump right in and get started. Backwards from 10 to 1 and give you all the way from the one that I think that you'll like up until my favorite at the end. So number 10 is going to be Rules of Magic by Alice Hoffman. This is a story of practical magic, the book and the movie. This is the twins' aunts that take care of them. This is a story about them growing up and about how they discovered magic and things like that, but there's very little actual magic in here. It's very much relationships, and it's kind of a slow, sweeping story about these sisters. I did give this one 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite, but I do think that if you enjoy kind of like the witchy atmospheric vibe, I think that you would really enjoy this one. Okay, number 9 is going to be Wild Beauty by Anna Marie McLemore. I put this one off for a long time, and I finally just read it. I absolutely love this one. I did only give it 3 stars, but it is a high 3 stars. I did have a few issues with the story, but I think overall the magical realism section of this was really beautiful. It's a story about these like generations of women that are stuck at this place, and they have to continually make flowers grow. And it's kind of a story about this boy that shows up, and they're trying to figure out what's happening. This story has LGBTQIA+ characters. This story is just very whimsical and very much magical realism. And I think that if you're somebody that likes those generational stories and the slow, whimsical stories, you would absolutely love this one. Okay, book number 8 is going to be A Million Junes by Emily Henry. So this is basically a retelling from Romeo and Juliet in modern times. But the only thing that it really takes from Romeo and Juliet is the fact that the 2 main characters' families hate each other and are feuding, and so it's kind of a forbidden romance. So that's what it takes from Romeo and Juliet. It does not follow, it's not like an exact retelling or anything like that. But basically this story is so magical, and this was probably one of the first magical realism books that I ever read. I gave this 4 stars. I think it was just beautiful. I think that even if you don't necessarily like the story of Romeo and Juliet, I think that you would still really love this. It just has this surreal, whimsical quality about it, and it's definitely a good one to get started in magical realism, because the magical realism is on the real spectrum. Like, you know, it's not as close to fantasy as some of the magical realism can get, so I definitely recommend this one. Okay, recommendation number 7 is going to be Undead Girl Gang by Lily Anderson. Now, unlike the previous one, this one definitely tilts more toward the fantasy spectrum. So this is a story about a girl that is a witch, and she doesn't really believe she's a witch. She's Wiccan, and she's always kind of done magic but never really believed that the magic is a real thing. But one of her best friends dies, and everybody's saying that it is a suicide. She doesn't think so. She thinks she was murdered. So she does a spell to try to bring her back so that she can find out what really happened to her. The only problem is she does bring her back, and she accidentally brings back 2 other girls that died around the same time that she maybe doesn't like as much. But it is definitely a whimsical, funny, just witchy, atmospheric read. But it is mostly a story about friendships and about family and about finding who you truly are inside. And I think that even if you are a person that loves contemporary, that this one would be really good for you to start with. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. My number 6 recommendation is going to be Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno. This is a story about this these two sisters that live on this small island that is known for kind of having a magical quality about it. And there's this bird that has been showing up for years, every year, to lay her eggs. And this year maybe something has gone wrong. She's late, they don't know what's going on. And then a new kind of person comes into town that she starts to have a relationship with and feelings for. There are characters on the LGBTIAQ+ spectrum in this, and it's absolutely beautiful female romance in here. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I wish there was a little bit more with the romance, but as far as the magical realism elements, I think that it was beautifully atmospheric. I think anybody could really enjoy this one. Definitely check this one out. My number 5 recommendation is actually the only middle grade that I have on here, and that is going to be City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. So this also falls a little bit closer to the fantasy spectrum, but it is a girl that can see ghosts, and she goes on a trip with her family to Edinburgh, Scotland. And there are a lot of ghosts, lots of ghost activity, and she meets another girl that can do the same thing that she can, and she's just kind of learning more about her gift and more about what happens. And you know, things happen, of course. But this is a new series by Victoria Schwab. There is going to be a next book that is going to take place in Paris, which I'm very excited about. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I think it was adorable. It was a quick, easy read. And I think this is one that you could definitely read with your kids because it's a middle grade, and it was just really beautiful. Okay, my number 4 pick is going to be Astonishing Color of After by Emily X. Arpan. So this is definitely different than any other magical realism that I've read. So this is about a girl whose mother commits suicide, and in her culture they believe that the soul becomes a bird or an animal of some sort while, you know, for so many days until it can finally, you know, go on to the afterlife. And she believes that her mother has become a bird, and in doing so she goes to visit where her mother grew up, which is in Taiwan. And the culture in this was so beautiful. I absolutely loved it. There was a lot happening that you didn't really know what was real and what was not. And this is one of those magical realisms where it could definitely fall more on the fantasy spectrum depending on how you interpret it, or it could be vastly based in the real world. It just depends on how you interpret it. I actually work with a woman that is from Taiwan. That's where she grew up until she was in her 20s, I believe, when she came to America. And I talked to her about this and about some of the things in the culture, and she said it is very well represented, and she remembers, like, there's a night market, and she told me all about it, and it matched up really well with the book. Emily X. Arpan has obviously spent much time in Taiwan. This is definitely, you know, it's number 4 for a reason. It's so beautiful, and I just really want everyone to give this one a shot. Okay, sorry for the change. My battery died, so let's go on to recommendation number 3. Recommendation number 3 is Spellbook for the Lost and Found by Myra Foley Doyle. This one is actually one I haven't even talked about much because I just finished it a couple of days ago. This one is kind of about these girls that lost something, and they put a spell to find it, and things happen. So it's very witchy, very like small Irish town atmospheric. I think that this is one that if you like ones more like the Rules of Magic, this one is a good step up from that. It's a little bit more magical, but it is still in the witches realm. But it does have multiple timelines, so that could be confusing. But overall, the magical realism in this is definitely one that I love. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I highly recommend this one. Okay, so my number 2 recommendation is going to be The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender. This is the very first magical realism that I ever read before I even knew what magical realism was, or that it was even a thing. So this is about a girl that is born with wings. However, this is a generational story, so it tells the story first of like her grandmother, her mother, and then her. And so it spans these, you know, generations, and it is just absolutely beautiful. It is definitely sorrowful. It is a darker read, but it is just it's very close to the spectrum of being of the real world. Basically, the only magic is that she was born with wings. So 5 out of 5 stars. I highly, highly recommend this one. Okay, so my number 1 recommendation is one that you've probably heard me talk about 100 other times, but I have to talk about it again, and that is The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. This one is definitely an atmospheric, witchy, whimsical, just dark, gorgeous story. Oh, I love this one so much. So this one tells the story about these 3 sisters that are accused of witchcraft back in like 1800s, and they are drowned in the sea because they live on this like small island. And every year after that, they come back and inhabit the bodies of these other girls, and they kind of like, as a siren, kind of like pull boys to their death. And you're trying to find out who they're inhabiting this time, what boys they're gonna kill, and it's so atmospheric. Like this, if like atmospheric is like on most of these because they're magical realism, but this one is the most atmospheric book I've ever read. I could feel myself living on that ocean, just living in that place, and it was so wonderfully written, and I cannot wait to see what Shay Earnshaw comes out with next. So if you read none of these books recommendations, please just at least try either this one or Ava Lavender. Those are the 2 that I really, really, really believe in. And so yeah, that's my number 1 recommendation. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is the first time I've ever done a book recommendation video. I definitely want to continue these in different genres, so let me know what genre you think I should do next. Some of the highly read genres that I read a lot are adult thrillers. I read a lot of fantasy. I've been reading a lot of contemporary, but I like dark contemporaries. So if you want recommendations on that, just let me know down in the comments. And yeah, so that's all I have for you today. Until next time, have a great day wherever you are, and I love you. Bye.